Hi, and welcome to the Isaiah Show. Today's show, we are going to talk everything Valentine's Day. Did you know that about 141 million Valentine's Day cards are exchanged worldwide each year? I know it's crazy. Let's get the show started. First, we have a video of what is the history of Valentine's Day. Then, we will be showing you delicious meals you can make at home for your loved ones on Valentine's Day.
This is the day we celebrate love. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be learning more about Valentine's Day.
You choose me? Happy Valentine's!
Valentine's Day is celebrated annually on February 14th. On this day, people exchange greeting cards and presents in the name of love and Saint Valentine, which is why it is also known as Saint Valentine's Day or the Feast of Saint Valentine.
It is the feast of the martyrdom of Saint Valentine. Please, Jack, don't tell me you're one of those convenient Catholics that only goes to church every Sunday.
In the Christian tradition, there were several martyred saints with the name Valentine or Valentinus. According to legend, one of these Valentines was a priest who went against the orders of Roman Emperor Claudius II by conducting marriages between soldiers and their loved ones. These actions ultimately led to his execution. However, before being put to death, Saint Valentine cured his jailer's daughter from blindness and fell in love with her. His last communication with her was a letter signed "From your Valentine," and this marked the very first Valentine greeting. To honor him, Pope Gelasius I made February 14th Saint Valentine's Day in 496 AD. Some believe the choice of this particular date was an effort by the Christians to curb the celebration of a pagan fertility festival called Lupercalia. Taking place between the 13th and the 15th of the month, the festival honored a Roman god and the founders of Rome through rituals of sacrifice and feasting. The association of romantic love with Valentine's Day did not actually emerge until the Middle Ages, when a poem by Englishman Geoffrey Chaucer linked February 14th with the start of the mating period for birds. As Valentine's Day earned more literary mentions, it grew in popularity over the centuries. People soon adopted the tradition of exchanging romantic handwritten notes with one another. Then, in the 1800s, a woman named Esther Howland became inspired by the fancy and intricate cards being made in England. By spearheading the mass production of similar cards in the United States, she became known as the mother of the American Valentine. During the next century, the celebration of Valentine's Day expanded to include gift-giving of items like flowers, chocolate, and jewelry. These tokens of affection are exchanged not only between romantic partners, but also between loved ones and friends.
All women should look as tasty as you when they're old.
With billions of dollars spent on cards and gifts annually, Valentine's Day has been criticized in recent years for being too commercial. Regardless, it is widespread in popular culture and continues to be the subject of literature, movies, television episodes, and more. Today, Valentine's Day is celebrated around the world, especially in Europe and North America.
I made it especially for you.
Oh, thanks.
Many other countries also have a day dedicated to love, though it may have another name, fall on other dates, or involve different customs. For some Valentine's Day cooking ideas, or for more great historical videos, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
There you have it, young love, full of promise, full of hope, ignorant of reality. From Henderson High on Valentine's Day, I'm Greg Gilkins, Channel 13.
I learned a lot about what Valentine's Day is from that video. Now, let's go watch a video about how to make a Valentine's Day meal at home.
Hi guys, I'm Lauren Vitale. Today I'm going to actually show you how to make a full meal. Now I wanted to do this because, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and like most of everybody else in the world probably, I'll be working a full day this year along with my husband, since it is a full, it's on Thursday, so everybody works during the week and we'll be working a full day just like everybody else. So I figured, I wanted to share a meal with you that you could really pull together in no time at all, but still feels a little bit special, and it feels like it might be something you might get at a restaurant somewhere if you did go out. Now this whole meal is going to be really simple, and some of these recipes might look a little familiar to you because I've done some of them, well, one of them before, which was a few years ago. We're gonna start with the main, which is gonna be a grilled flank steak in a post marinade with a lovely lemon rosemary roasted tomato, a side salad of arugula, and then some chocolate covered strawberries for dessert. Now, doesn't that sound like a great meal? My husband and I haven't figured out yet what we want for Valentine's Day because we love the scallop scampi and risotto, and it's just like amazing. So you can make this whenever you feel like it, by all means. It doesn't have to be for Valentine's Day. But let's get started. The first thing we're going to start with is actually the potatoes. So you want to get your oven preheated to 425 so that that's nice and hot. And we're going to get onto the potatoes. I've got here some Yukon Gold potatoes. I've scrubbed them clean. And I'm just going to cut these in half and then cut them in lovely little wedges, just like that. If the potato I was using was a really big baking potato, I would probably just use one, just because they can be pretty big. So I'm gonna cut 2 of them, even though this is a lot for one person. I think it's a special meal, so we deserve a good amount of potatoes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on a microwave safe plate, and I'm going to pop these into the microwave for about 5 minutes. What that does is that it cooks them almost halfway through, cutting your baking time in less than half. So normally they would need about 45 minutes into the oven. By doing it this way, it'll only take about 25 minutes in the oven. So I'm going to put these in a single layer, pop them in the microwave for 5 minutes, and then we'll get going on making the rest of the meal. My potatoes were in the microwave for 5 minutes, and by the way, if you don't want to use a microwave, you can just boil them on a stovetop, in boiling water, or you can just put them into the oven with a little bit of olive oil. It just took a lot longer to cook. That's all. Just gonna put these into a baking pan. Be careful, they're hot. Drizzle a little bit of olive oil on them to coat. I'm not gonna put any salt on them yet because I'm gonna sprinkle them with some flavorful salt later. I'm like, it's tongue twisting day today for some reason. All right, coat these well. I'm gonna pop these into the oven. They'll probably be in there for about 25 minutes or so, or until they're a beautiful golden brown color. Toss them halfway through just to cook them evenly. And now we'll get going on making the next course. So the next course we're going to be working on is actually the dessert, because next to the potatoes, this is the thing that takes the second long amount of time to set. Now, I've got here some washed strawberries, and you want to make sure that you pat them dry after you wash them, just because otherwise you'll have a hard time getting the chocolate to stick. Now, the chocolate I have here is good quality, the best quality you can find of milk chocolate. You could use bittersweet if you like bittersweet chocolate, or semi-sweet. I happen to love milk chocolate, so that's what I'm using today. And that's what I used in my original chocolate covered strawberry when I did these a couple years ago here for Laura in the kitchen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of vegetable oil, a couple teaspoons, to my chocolate. This gives it a nice shine. It doesn't give it any flavor, which is great. I'm going to pop this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, giving it a stir every time until the chocolate is fully melted, and then we'll get going to dipping. My chocolate is perfect. You just want to dive right in and take a bath in it. Now you want to make sure you get a baking sheet ready with some parchment paper. This is the end of the roll for me, and it keeps rolling up, so I'm just going to reinforce it with some wooden spoons because it's making me crazy. Okay, so you take your strawberries. You want to make sure they're nice and dry, like I mentioned. And then I'm going to dip it about 2/3 of the way so that you can still see the strawberry right on top. Then place it right on your baking sheet that's been lined with parchment. And that's it. Continue to do that. And then once they're all ready, they'll be ready to go into the fridge to set completely. They'll take about a half hour or so. They don't take that long, thankfully. So just keep dipping. So once all your strawberries are dipped into that gorgeous glossy chocolate, you're going to have to hold back by not eating them yet, because these have got to go into the fridge to set completely, and we've got another course to make. So this goes in, I'm going to check my potatoes, and then we'll meet right back here to make the main. Now my potatoes are finishing up in the oven. We're going to get the steak ready. What I have here is an 8-ounce piece of flank steak, 4 ounces per person. If you want to double up this recipe, feel free to do that. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to just brush it with some olive oil on both sides. I'm going to sprinkle it with some steak seasoning. Now, heads up, Anytime I use steak seasoning or any kind of seasoning, I always make sure it's salt free because most of the time it is so heavily salted, it's overpowering, and I want to be able to control that. So all I'm doing here is brushing it with some olive oil and then salting it myself and then adding the steak seasoning. So we're doing it on the flip side now. Now, instead of marinating a steak before you cook it, like normally you would marinate any protein before, we're gonna do it after. So it's like a post marinade, and it's also gonna make almost like a gravy. It's delicious. I've got a non-stick grill pan here, really nice and hot. And now I'm gonna just put this right on. And now, depending on the temperature you like to cook your steak at, that will depend how long it takes to cook. For this thickness, I'm gonna say it's probably gonna need about 3 minutes on each side for a good medium rare. But again, feel free to cook it longer if you like it cooked longer. So while that's going, let's move on to the post marinade, which is so easy. What I've got here is a few cloves of garlic. Feel free to use less if you don't like a lot of garlic. My husband loves garlic, so that's why I went heavy. And a sprig of rosemary. I'm not even gonna chop the rosemary. I'm gonna leave it as is. I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of olive oil to this. Very simple. I mean, feel free to use any seasoning you like. Feel free to use any dressing, whatever you want. It's completely up to you. Sky's the limit. Any herbs you prefer, totally your call. And a little bit of balsamic vinegar. About 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then just mix it together. You don't need to salt it or pepper it because the steak has already got that going on for it. So just mix this around, and then when the steak hits the garlic and the rosemary, because I'm going to sit the steak like right on top, it's going to infuse so lightly, yet so subtle but delicious all throughout the steak. So we'll wait for that to get done, and then we'll pretty much be ready to pull the whole thing off. While the steak's finishing up, just a couple more minutes on that second side. The potatoes just came out of the oven, so they're gorgeous, golden brown, and very crispy, which is exactly what I want. So now I'm going to make a flavorful salt to sprinkle all over them. Got a little bit of fresh rosemary here. I'm going to strip off the leaves. This is going to be so lovely. And you can use this method and use any herb that you prefer. I'm going to do rosemary, a little bit of lemon zest. It's so yummy. Not a lot, because you don't want it to be too lemony, of course, but trust me, it works. Works really well. Then I'm going to put in some salt and some black pepper. And then I'm just using my Moreland pestle here, and I'm just going to crush this together. That's it. Just to break up the rosemary. You're just trying to bruise it, really, because once it hits the hot potatoes, you'll be able to smell the rosemary like seconds, trust me. But this really is kind of fantastic. And you can do the same method and do this with any herbs and citrus you like and sprinkle it on some fish or chicken before you grill it or put it in the oven. It's fabulous. Okay, I'm just gonna take this, sprinkle my potatoes with it. Oh, you can smell it immediately. Like seriously, like right away, you can smell it. Look how crunchy they are. Ah, that's gorgeous. A bit more. I've got some left over here that I'm gonna pop into a little bag and keep it in the fridge. Now I'm gonna take my steak off. Like I said, I like my steak very underdone, so I'm gonna take mine off now. Beautiful. I'm gonna put it in my marinade. I'm gonna let it sit for about 2 minutes on one side. Then we'll flip it and let it sit in there for another 2 minutes. Let those flavors all soak up. Whoops, got my lemon here reserved. What I also have is a baguette right back there. I popped it into the oven just to crisp it up a little bit more because that's just how I like it. And I have some fresh baby arugula. Baby, not baby. Hello, baby. I've got some fresh baby arugula that's been washed and dried really well. I'm going to dress this really, really simply with some extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, and salt and pepper. I'm going to put some shavings of Parmesan when we serve this tonight. But for right now, I'm just going to dress it really simply. Like that. Let's put in a little bit of lemon juice. I always like to have a little green salad with my steak, and arugula is my green of choice. That's plenty. And then just kind of toss it lightly with my hands. I don't want to bruise it too much. All right, I'm gonna clean up, get a plate, get everything set up so that we can plate and eat. All right, time to slice this baby up. Now, when you're working with flank steak, see the grain going against this way? We're gonna cut up against it, because if you cut with it, you'll get shoestrings. You don't want that. So, cut up against it. So, really thin, look at that. That's how I love my steak. If you want yours cooked longer, feel free to cook it longer. It's completely an optional thing. My mother still does to this day. She likes to eat hers basically that it's still mooing. That's just how she prefers it. I'm just gonna cut these for myself and put them on this little plate. I'm gonna dip it in there. Oh, look at that. It makes like a delicious gravy. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm just gonna eat this for myself as a little snack, because this is gonna be, whoa, for Mr. Joe Vitale and I. I gotta keep things special for my Mr. Piece of steak. Let's try it. So tender. I'm gonna take it with a little bit of arugula. So tender too. Oh, love that. So perfect. These potatoes are perfect. All right, I'm gonna clean up, get my dessert out. We'll try it together, and then that's it. We'll finish this off with a bang. Now that dinner is out of the way, it is time to enjoy some dessert. By the way, the crispy baguette dipped into that marinade, seriously amazing. You've got to do that. You can make any meal with a baguette and a side salad, just so you know. So, let's go right into this. I'm just going to get a few here for me. So good. So incredible. Look how nice, beautiful set. So amazing. So fast. Always a great ending. Whether you've got plenty of time to make dessert or not, tell me you can never go wrong with chocolate covered strawberries. Go ahead, I'll wait, because you know you can't. I'm going in for a second one. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me to make this delicious dinner for Valentine's Day. Guarantee you score big points. Hope you enjoyed spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
That's all the time we have for today. I see you next time on the Isaiah Show. Be kind to one another. And happy Valentine's Day, everybody.